Yeah, you know who it is, and for those of you that don't, I'm Cytonius, the opposite of the phoniest. Ugh. And I want to ask, is Harley Quinn a feminist icon?
What? Ha! And here you thought I was just another bubble-headed blonde bimbo. Well, the joke's on you. I'm not even a real blonde.
For a lot of people, Harley Quinn is the rambunctious, sexy, villainous henchwoman girlfriend of the Joker. For others, she's the lovable anti-heroine girlfriend of Poison Ivy. According to DC Comics' chief creative officer and legendary comic book artist Jim Lee, Harley Quinn is the fourth pillar of DC Comics, alongside Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. But in recent years, Harley Quinn has been considered somewhat of a feminist icon. Blogs and articles from various media outlets have labeled Harley Quinn as a feminist icon. Now, I know within comic book nerd spaces, the topic of feminism can be controversial, especially considering that it's one of the forbidden subjects of nerd culture conversations.
There are some words that we just have decided we will not say all the time. Sometimes, okay, you know what I mean? It's just like we've decided there'll be some words we won't say all the time. And I was just trying to find out which words they were. For sure, all of them. I wanted a list.
So, what exactly are those forbidden topics that rub fanboys the wrong way? Well, let's go down the list. First, you have the ubiquitous boogeyman known as racism, followed by politics, gender studies, and pretty much any type of social justice topics that expand the genre of comics beyond mindless escapism. So knowing how obnoxiously, aggressively opinionated comic book fans can be, why would I decide to make a 30-minute video discussing feminism and Harley Quinn? Well, the answer to that question is simple. When this channel started, my goal was to discuss and analyze the socio-political layers of pop culture, especially in regards to comic books, which is a medium that's often overlooked for its thematically potent and philosophically resonant ideas and characters. Unfortunately, YouTube is filled with content creators who think like this, look like this, and act like this. Don't let certain YouTubers fool you into thinking that comics are void of any type of socially conscious or relevant subtext. Comic books have always addressed various socio-political topics, from revolutionary anarchism to the Holocaust to racism and even feminism. So, is Harley Quinn a feminist icon? Well, the answer to that question is complicated, considering the fact that Harley Quinn has been written by over a dozen writers and has appeared in various forms of media that have all created different interpretations of the characters that represent different things. First appearing in the 22nd episode of Batman the Animated Series titled The Joker's Favor, Harley Quinn was created by writer Paul Dini and artist and producer Bruce Timm. Harley Quinn was originally based on several actresses from film and television such as Barbara Eaton, Betty Hutton, Gloria Graham, and Claudette Colbert, who were all beautiful screwball comedy actresses from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Dini would use his close friend and soap opera actress Arlene Sorkin as the main inspiration for Harley Quinn after seeing a clip of her as a court jester on an episode of Days of Our Lives.
I'm on at the roll, let's get it! Okay, two drummer boys going to a bar. Ba-dum-ba-dum-bum. Boy, you're a rough crowd. You forceth me to shooteth you the moon.
Early on, Harley Quinn was always a fan favorite character. Not really a deep character, but just a silly sidekick henchwoman to one of the most popular comic book villains of all time. From my perspective as someone who watched Batman the Animated Series when it first aired, Harley Quinn hardly represented anything truly nuanced or complex from an ideological standpoint. That is, until one moment changed the trajectory of the character forever.
You've forgotten what I told you a long time ago. One of the painful truths of comedy. You always take shots from folks who just don't get the joke. And don't call me Puddin'.
My fault. I didn't get the joke.
So domestic abuse is a very sensitive subject for a lot of people, myself included. I unfortunately grew up in a home where domestic abuse happened often. From the time I was 10 to 19 years old, I saw my mother endure physical abuse from various men that she was in relationships with. The psychological effects of domestic abuse towards women have had long-lasting effects and manifest as complex post-traumatic stress syndrome. The way that society has framed domestic abuse towards women has been problematic, to say the least. In many instances of domestic abuse towards women, the blame often falls on the victim, with one of the most prevalent narratives being that if the man is so abusive, why doesn't the woman just leave? Statements like this are a gross oversimplification of what I think should be considered romantic terrorism. With the comic book and animated series adaptation of Mad Love, Harley Quinn evolves beyond just a henchwoman sidekick. She becomes an avatar for the complex nuances of domestic abuse in pop culture entertainment. Domestic abuse has been portrayed in film and television for decades. Sometimes it's done with care and empathy, and sometimes it's not. In my opinion, Harley Quinn is a strange character to use as a framework for feminism. Her entire character is built around abuse, trauma, and hypersexualization, all things that exist in opposition to feminism. While many people have convoluted definitions of what feminism is the socio-political ideology of empowerment and equality for women. Feminism exists under several generational frameworks, such as First Wave Feminism, which emerged as a response to the women's suffrage movements of the early 20th century. Second Wave Feminism emerged during the 50s and 60s with the focus on economic equality for women. Third Wave Feminism emerged in the 90s and focused on addressing things such as the rise of domestic abuse against women and embracing sexual positivity and girl power. Harley Quinn's creation coincides with the start of Third Wave Feminism. Her entire modus operandi is Third Wave Feminism. But was Harley Quinn created to be a representation of Third Wave Feminism? The answer to that question lies with one person, Paul Dini, the creator of Harley Quinn.
I was doing a Joker episode, the first one I had written, and I wanted the Joker to have a gang, and I wanted there to be a girl in the gang. And at first I was going back and forth on what kind of a girl she should be. She should be sort of like a tough chick who just sort of took orders and said, yeah, boss, or should she have a little bit of pepper to her? And I like the idea of someone who could kind of keep up with the Joker, and not only keep up with him, but might also get a laugh out of something she said, whereas the Joker might not get a laugh, and that would infuriate him. And yet there should be sort of like a Punch and Judy dynamic to him. That makes the villain a little more well-rounded for me. Joker's sort of a hard villain in the fact that he's the least human of all of Batman's adversaries. He doesn't come from a sympathetic background such as Two-Face or Ivy or the Mad Hatter or some of the other ones. So you have to look at other ways to flesh out his personality, and we thought, well, it would be good if he had somebody to play off of. So Harley came, it was sort of like a one-shot character. Then people liked her. I liked her, so I would put her in other stories. Bruce would say, like, what, Harley again? We're going to put the girl in there again? And I go, yeah, well, she's sort of cute. And the other directors came to like her, and then Bruce and I sat down over lunch one day, and we came up with an origin story, and we did that as a comic book, and that really sort of grounded the character, the sort of reality of where she fit into the Batman universe.
So that clip was just a long-winded way of confirming that no, Harley Quinn wasn't created to represent a feminist agenda. While Paul Dini and Bruce Timm might not have created Harley Quinn to represent a feminist agenda, Harley Quinn's creation and what she came to represent can most certainly exist in two different spaces. Harley Quinn is a character both created and defined by the male gaze, a term created by pop culture feminist film critic Laura Mulvey in 1975. In mass media, the male gaze is represented by female characters defined by their framing as a sexual object of heterosexual male desire. The male gaze is a framework that just about every female superhero character is built on. Which makes sense because just about every female superhero character was created by a man. What's interesting about Harley Quinn is that she's part of a group of original female characters that were created for the Bruce Timm DC animated universe. Harley Quinn exists alongside other 90s animated femme fatales like Red Claw, Mercy Graves, Livewire, and Volcana. And while each of these characters had a level of prominence in the DC animated universe, none of them had the popularity of Harley Quinn. Each of these characters embodied a girl power aesthetic that was a major cultural signifier of the 90s. Red Claw was a deadly and physically imposing powerhouse who was very reminiscent of female bodybuilders of the era like Corey Everson. And she's also the first original female villain character created for the Bruce Timm DC animated universe. Mercy Graves was a deadly and skillful villainous henchwoman who was most likely modeled after the James Bond villain Xena Onatopp, who was played by Famke Janssen in the 1995 film GoldenEye. Livewire was a loudmouth shock jock inspired by 90s radio personality Howard Stern, who became an electric-themed supervillain. What is it about Harley Quinn that made her stand out among her counterparts? Harley Quinn is the only one of these characters whose existence is connected to male sexual and romantic subordination. Most Batman female supervillains are alpha female girl bosses who are eco-terrorists, headstrong jewel thieves, matriarchal leaders of assassin organizations, and highly trained martial arts mercenaries. Harley Quinn speaks to a cultural standard of female existence that's defined by placing men at the apex of the social sexual hierarchy and women as second-class citizens. Harley Quinn isn't Gloria Steinem or Bell Hooks. Hell, Harley Quinn is barely a Spice Girl. One female figure I do think shares some interesting parallels with Harley Quinn is none other than Patty Hearst. For those not familiar, Patty Hearst was the granddaughter of wealthy businessman and journalist William Randolph Hearst. In 1974, Patty Hearst was a 19-year-old college student who was abducted and indoctrinated into the anarchist group known as the Symbionese Liberation Army, or SLA, which was a militant radical anarchist group who was responsible for several murders and bank robberies. Sound familiar? Harleen Frances Quinzel was a young therapist in training at Arkham Asylum who fell in love and became indoctrinated into the Joker's anarchist criminal agenda, where they committed several acts of murder and robbed banks. Both women share similar traits of romantic sexual Stockholm syndrome. Both women come from abusive relationships rooted in psychological manipulation and coercion into a life of crime. But the irony of Harley Quinn is that she stands in opposition with how women were being presented in 90s mass media. Or does she? 1991 would see the creation of Riot Grrrl, which was a punk rock movement often associated with third wave feminism. The purpose of Riot Grrrl was to use punk rock and other subcultures to centralize women as prominent voices to critique things like sexism and bigotry and to promote female empowerment. Riot Grrrl would also give birth to the slogan, Girl Power, which would be a major cultural touchstone for the 90s. The 90s would see a major emphasis on mass media that was geared towards empowering a young female audience. In music, groups like the Spice Girls and Salt and Pepper would be avatars for girl power. In television, shows like Xena Warrior Princess and Buffy the Vampire Slayer would dominate in the ratings. In the world of film, movies like Thelma and Louise will become landmarks in feminist entertainment. But if the pendulum can swing one way, it can swing the other. The 90s would also give birth to some of the most sexist and anti-feminist portrayals of women in comic book history. Characters like Witchblade, She, Vampirella, and Danger Girl would exist as some of the most popular and scoliosis-written comic book characters of all time, and would stand at the forefront of the artistic aesthetic known as cheesecake art. So what is cheesecake art? The term cheesecake art is a reference to a style of art and photography that focuses on sexually attractive women as pinup models. The term was created in the 1930s as the female equivalent to the male beefcake aesthetic. Cheesecake art, like anything else, is a topic that when discussed requires nuance. While there are plenty of women who find cheesecake pinup art empowering, there's also plenty of women who find it demeaning and sexist. The challenge of women existing as avatars of female empowerment in the genre of superheroes is difficult, because superheroes is a genre that was created for boys, and one thing that history has taught us is that boys don't like girls. For many men, it's difficult, if not damn near impossible, to reconcile liking and appreciating women as high-quality human beings with being sexually attracted to them. Even the most prominent and feminist-adjacent superhero, Wonder Woman's creation, was influenced by BDSM fetishism and the early 20th century male gaze. When discussing feminism in Harley Quinn, we have to discuss the point in time that she enters the conversation of feminist representation. While the transition from the 20th to the 21st century would see Harley Quinn evolve into a major figure in nerd pop culture, her emergence as a feminist figure in pop culture would happen because of one person, Margot Robbie.
When I researched Harley Quinn and the origins of a Harlequin was always like to be like this mischievous little sidekick. And I thought it was important to keep that element that she always wants to be a sidekick to someone, but she's being really mischievous about it, and that's what she finds so fun.
Harley Quinn, nice to meet ya.
2016 would see the live-action film debut of Harley Quinn. In the movie,
some kind of Suicide Squad.
This version of the character would be the hyper-violent, hypersexual sidekick girlfriend to the Joker. In fact, this version of Harley Quinn would be mostly defined by her relationship with men. Hardly feminist. The 2020 film Birds of Prey would act as a counterpoint to Harley Quinn's portrayal in Suicide Squad. In this film, instead of being an object of male desire and control, she spends most of the movie in constant conflict with villainous men. I want to talk about Margot Robbie for a minute. This might be controversial, but I think Margot Robbie might be one of the most important movie stars of the 21st century. While there have been several important female movie stars to emerge in the new millennium, Margot Robbie exists as a symbol of modern feminism in Hollywood. With a filmography that ranges from sexy trophy wife, to disgraced figure skaters, to iconic girl dolls, Margot Robbie has played just about every female character archetype in American film. On the surface, Margot Robbie seems like just another beautiful actress, but her career and legacy in the entertainment industry is perhaps one of the most important and progressive. Through her film production company Lucky Chap Entertainment, Margot Robbie has managed to produce some of the most feminist-coded and female-empowering movies of the past 10 years. Best known for her portrayal of Harleen Quinzel in various live-action movies in the DC cinematic universe, Margot Robbie would be the first actress to portray Harley Quinn through the 3 stages of womanhood. For those not familiar, the 3 stages of womanhood are a series of archetypes represented throughout a woman's life. Those stages are the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Ironically, Margot Robbie would portray Harley Quinn in 3 separate films that would all represent a different stage of womanhood. 2016 Suicide Squad would see Harley Quinn in the maiden stage. The maiden is characterized by being naive, curious, and passionate. This is reflective of Harley's character in Suicide Squad.
You're not leaving me. You're not leaving me! I have done everything you said, every test, every trial, every initiation. I have proved I love you. Just accept it.
Got it. I am not someone who is loved. I'm an idea.
state of mind.
I execute my will according to my plan, and you, Doctor,
are not part of my plan.
Just let me in. I promise. Let me in. I promise I won't hurt you.
2020's Birds of Prey would see Harley in the mother stage. The mother is characterized through nurturing and compassionate behavior. This is displayed by Harley with her relationship with Cassandra Cain.
Yeah, I made the kid my apprentice. Call me a softie. I dare ya.
2021 Suicide Squad would be the third and last time we would see Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. This film would show Harley in the crone stage. The crone stage represents wisdom, self-realization, and personal growth.
I'm sorry. Recently, I made a promise to myself that the next time I got a boyfriend, I'd be on the lookout for red flags. And if I saw any, I would do the healthy thing. And I would murder him. And killing kids, it's kind of a red flag. I know what you're trying to say. Harley, why not just leave? And I'd say, why are you screaming at me? I'm not deaf, I'm standing right here. And then I'd say, when your taste in men is as bad as mine, they don't just go away quietly. They slash your tires and they kill your dogs and tell you that the music you like ain't real music at all, and all the cruelty. Tears you apart after a while.
James Gunn's Suicide Squad gives us a more mature and self-reliant version of Harley Quinn that isn't dependent on attention from men. Because so much of Harley's existence is defined by her relationships with men, it's interesting that the next most prominent portrayal of Harley in mass media will place a strong emphasis on a relationship with a woman. The 2019 animated series Harley Quinn would be a dark, comedic, satirical adult TV show that's more like South Park and less like Justice League Unlimited. What's interesting about the Harley Quinn animated series is that it's a show built around fourth wave feminism. Fourth wave feminism is characterized by focusing on addressing things like sexual harassment, challenging gender stereotypes, and intersectionality among marginalized groups, specifically within the LGBTQ community. It would be impossible to discuss Harley Quinn and not discuss her sexuality. Sexuality is one of the most important aspects of feminism. Sexuality is directly connected to things such as self-esteem, social power dynamics, and is one of the most prevalent forms of human self-expression. Prior to Harley Quinn, most mainstream female comic book characters were coded as heterosexual objects of desire for the mostly male fan base. While there were characters whose sexual fluidity was implied and presented, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy would be the most popular mainstream lesbian superhero couple to exist in the world of comics. The first traces of this relationship would be present in the 90s with Batman the Animated Series, and would later be explored in the comics, and then in the HBO Max animated series. Unlike other lesbian comic book characters, Harley Quinn and Ivy are both romantically aspirational and relatable, with Harley being a wicked version of a manic pixie dream girl, and Poison Ivy being a villainous girl boss. So once again, I want to ask, is Harley Quinn a feminist icon? Well, I think the appeal of Harley Quinn extends far beyond the concept of feminism. For many female comic book characters, they often function and exist in a narrow and adjacent space of male power fantasies, and are mostly appreciated from the perspective of what a male deems as the ideal female, even if that ideal doesn't reflect anything reasonable. In American society, women are always under pressure to live in a constant state of respectability to appease patriarchal standards of how men think women should exist. But Harley Quinn exists in opposition of that. But she also exists in opposition of the staunch feminism that alienates many men and causes them to resent feminist ideologies. Harley Quinn taps into a part of the female experience that's usually downplayed, and that's a woman's ability to be unapologetically unfiltered and flawed. To me, Harley Quinn is what I'd like to label as the paradoxal Freudian id. She's a series of emotional contradictions. She represents raw, unrefined emotions. Harley is intelligent, but also naive. Harley is aggressive, but also compassionate. She's uncouth, but also undeniably feminine. There's a reason that Harley Quinn is the most cosplayed and mimicked comic book character in modern pop culture. She represents a type of feminine armor that allows women to be free and uninhibited. In this modern renaissance of comic book superhero characters being ubiquitous figures in mainstream entertainment, the standard of what we want in a hero has changed. Instead of pristine beacons of justice and altruism that are mostly white and mostly male, we want characters that are flawed, emotionally complex, and a bit more rambunctious. But we also need characters that are ideologically potent and resonant. Female comic book characters come in all different shapes and sizes and represent a wide spectrum of socio-political concepts. So, by that standard, all female comic book characters are feminist icons, whether it be Wonder Woman existing as a symbol of female dignity and fortitude, or Tank Girl existing as a symbol of feminine exuberance, or Black Cat existing as a symbol of seductive female power, or Harley Quinn existing as all of those things. They all make up the fabric of the female superhero framework. While I already know this video will be divisive, mainly because of how society misunderstands feminism as hating men, I think it's important that people, mostly men, make a greater effort to understand that feminism is for everybody.
We've always thought of our heroes as having to do with death and war. And, when we think of Joseph Campbell and the whole idea of the heroic journey, it's rarely a journey that's about love. It's about, deeds that have to do with conquering, domination, what have you. And so part of what I wanted to say to people is that living as we do in a culture of domination, to truly choose to love is heroic. To work at love, to really let yourself, understand the art of loving.